They say Tonopah is a ghost town, but I found out why it's really dead. Behind the Clown Motel's painted smiles is something ancient, and I was hired to keep it from waking up. Asterisk, most people drive through Tonopah without stopping. A speck of strange in the middle of nowhere. But the Clown Motel? That's the kind of place that doesn't just exist, it lingers. Like a cold breath on your neck when you're alone. Like a chuckle from an empty room. And I, in a moment of desperation and stupidity, signed up to work there. I got the job through a Craigslist ad that read, "Seeking a night machine operator. Must be punctual. Must not ask questions. Lodging provided. Hazard pay included. Location, Clown Motel, Tonopah, Nevada." I had just lost my job at a junkyard outside of Vegas. Rent was past due, my truck was on its last tire, and my stomach hadn't seen a real meal in 3 days. So I replied. A guy named Mr. Blythe called me within the hour. His voice was smooth, way too calm. "You'll start tonight," he said. "Be here by 7 p.m. There are rules to follow." That should have been my first red flag that I arrived with the sun just beginning to dip beneath the mountains, bathing the desert in rust and gold. The Clown Motel stood out like a pastel hallucination, blue and pink walls chipped from years of sun and sand, giant clown faces grinning from every angle. Dozens of clown mannequins stared from windows, their glassy eyes catching the last rays of sunlight. Out front stood a single clown statue, nearly 8 feet tall, holding a sign that read, "Smile. It keeps them calm." I parked my truck and stepped out, feeling the cracked pavement crunch under my boots. To my right was the famous Tonopah Cemetery, just a few yards away. Rows of decaying wooden crosses, some over a century old, leaned in the wind like they were trying to whisper secrets to the motel. The office was empty when I walked in. A bell rang above the door, and a chill crawled down my spine. The room was filled with clown portraits, some cheerful, most deeply unsettling. I stood there, waiting, until I noticed the note on the counter. "Eli, that's me. Welcome. Down the hall. Room 6. Your uniform and the manual are on the bed. Follow the rules exactly. No improvisations. Mr. Blythe, no greeting. No explanation. Just instructions." Room 6 was small but clean. The walls were painted in stripes like a circus tent, and the bedspread had smiling clown faces printed all over it. On the pillow was a red jumpsuit with white gloves and a clown pin stitched to the chest. On the bed was a leather-bound manual labeled, "Operational Protocol for the Giggle Engine." I stared at that title for a good 5 minutes. Inside were the rules, handwritten, no dates, no author. Just instructions. The rules: you will clock in at 10 p.m. sharp in the basement control room. Always wear your clown uniform while operating the machine. It disguises your scent. Do not look into mirror number 4. It shows what's really behind the walls. Feed the engine every 2 hours using the laugh canisters stored in locker 13. If you hear crying from the drain pipes, increase the pressure to level 6. If the clowns in room 12 start giggling in unison, evacuate to the office immediately. Do not stop for anything. Never press the red lever. That lever is not for you. By the time I finished reading, it was almost 9:50 p.m. I changed into the clown suit. It was too tight and smelled faintly of copper and old perfume. Then I followed the signs in the hallway leading to the basement. The stairwell down was cold. The walls transitioned from painted plaster to raw concrete. There were claw marks on some steps, deep gouges, like something had been dragged. No, had crawled upward in desperation to the bottom. I found the control room. Looked like something out of a steampunk nightmare. Brass pipes ran along the walls. Blinking lights and analog gauges blinked and hummed. In the center sat the giggle engine, a monstrous machine made of gears, tubes, and what looked like teeth. Big, human-sized teeth. There was a chair bolted in front of it, and a console with only 3 levers, green, blue, and red. I clocked in by pulling a brass switch labeled, "Welcome back," smiley face. And immediately, the engine let out a low, vibrating chuckle. The room dimmed. The air thickened. And from the pipes above, a long, wet gurgle echoed like something had just been fed. That night, I followed the rules to the letter. Every 2 hours, I loaded a laugh canister, metal cylinders filled with what sounded like recorded clown laughter, into a hatch on the engine's side. I heard gears shift, the teeth rotate, and then a deep sigh from somewhere in the walls. I didn't know what the machine did, only that it needed to keep running at 2:13 a.m. I made the mistake of looking into mirror #4. It was a square mirror mounted near the west valve. My eyes flicked to it as I passed by and froze at my reflection. Wasn't wearing the clown suit, it was naked, covered in deep scratches. Its mouth was open, wider than any human mouth should go, and from its throat, laughter poured out like smoke. My reflection raised one hand and waved at me, even though I hadn't moved mine. I shut my eyes and turned away. I didn't look again. At 3:50 a.m., the clowns in room 12 started giggling. The sound crawled through the pipes like rats. First one, then three, then dozens. High-pitched, childlike, distorted. I ran. I didn't stop for the stairs. I climbed the rungs on the maintenance shaft straight to the office. By the time I reached it, the giggling had stopped. Outside, the clown statue's head had turned. It was now facing the cemetery. The sun finally rose at 5:44 a.m. That's when Mr. Blythe appeared. Just as suddenly as he'd vanished, he stood in the lobby, wearing a gray suit and holding a small black box. "You survived your first night," he said flatly. "Most don't." "Well done." He handed me the box. "Payment. Come back tonight. We'll need you again." I opened the box in my truck. Inside was $2,000 in crisp bills and a red clown nose made of something soft and warm, almost like skin. I should have driven away right then and there, but I needed the money. And part of me, God help me, wanted to know what the giggle engine really was, because in those brief moments when it purred after feeding, I swear I heard my own voice, laughing back at me. I came back the second night, despite every cell in my body screaming not to. Logic was a drowned voice now. Money had stuffed cotton in my ears. That, and something else. Something worse. An itch behind my thoughts that whispered, "You need to know what's really down there. You need to know what the machine is laughing at." I arrived at 9:45 p.m. The motel looked the same on the outside. Grinning faces, flickering vacancy sign, graveyard breathing behind it like a beast asleep. But something about the air felt different. Heavy, wet, like the desert had forgotten it was supposed to be DRY.MR. Blythe was waiting at the front door this time. He handed me a new key. "Room 9 tonight," he said. "Room 6 is being sanitized." "Sanitized?" I asked. He didn't answer. Just handed me a small clown pin with 2 red eyes instead of black. "Add this to your uniform. It lets the engine know you're still you." Still me? What the hell did that mean? Room 9 was colder than the others. Freezing, actually. The vent was off, but my breath still clouded. A clown doll sat in the corner. Not the smiling porcelain kind, but old, fabric sagging, stuffing visible, button eyes barely sewn on. A note sat next to it. "He watches. Do not move him." Okay, cool. Totally normal. I changed into the suit, clipped the pin to my chest, and headed to the basement. Every step down the stairs sounded like it was being taken by someone behind me a second later. When I paused, the echo paused too. The door to the control room opened without me touching it. The giggle engine was already on, humming low and slow like a cat full of blood. That night, the manual had an extra note scribbled in the margins. If the gauges hit the black zone, play the emergency laugh track. Do not, under any circumstances, let the room fall silent. Not again. Not again? What had happened before? At 11:30 p.m., something knocked from the inside of locker 13. That was where the laugh canisters were stored. The rule was simple. Take one, feed the engine every 2 hours, lock the door. But that night, when I opened it, I found 2 extra canisters, unlabeled. No voices, no chuckles, just cold, metal silence. And under them, a note scrawled in red. Marker, use only if the machine asks for them. I stared at the door to the locker for a long time after I shut it. It knocked again. Knock. Knock. Knock knock. A rhythm. Like a joke. I didn't laugh. At 1:12 a.m. The power flickered. The gauges trembled. The engine groaned. Pipes whined like they were about to rupture. And then, everything died. The room went dark. Utterly black. Even the emergency lights failed. But I could still hear the engine breathing. And I could hear something else too. Something in the darkness. Wet steps. Rubbery footsteps. A sudden hiss of metal behind me. I fumbled for the emergency laugh track button. My hand brushed the red lever. Not that one. Not that one. My fingers found the yellow panel and slammed down. From hidden speakers, clown laughter exploded into the room. High, wild, desperate, like a birthday party at a funeral. Something shrieked in the dark and vanished. The lights came back. The gauges slowly crawled back to green, but on the far wall was a new mirror I hadn't noticed it before. Mirror #7. And in it, just for a second, I saw a third person in the room. A clown, smiling, holding something behind its back. Standing inches behind me. I spun. N01 was there, but the red lever had moved slightly. Upward. By 2:45 a.m. I couldn't keep calm anymore. I went to room 12. I know. The rules said not to, but I needed to see them. The giggling clowns. The ones that warned you something terrible was coming. The hallway was darker than usual. All the wall lights were flickering in opposite rhythms, like competing heartbeats. Room 12's door was wide open. Inside were 32 clown mannequins, sitting in chairs, standing on beds, hanging from the ceiling. All of them turned toward the doorway, and they were all smiling. Except 1.1 had no face at all, just smooth white skin where its eyes, nose, and mouth should be. And yet, I could feel it watching me. Suddenly, all the clowns turned their heads toward it. Their mouths moved in sync. Not a sound came out, but I understood. It does not belong. I shut the door. I didn't look back. At 4:10 a.m., the engine asked for one of the silent canisters. How do I know it asked? Because the lights all dimmed, the machine stopped humming, and the word feed appeared on every gauge in dripping red letters. That I opened locker 13. The canister on the bottom vibrated slightly in my hands. Cold. Too cold. When I inserted it, the machine didn't laugh. It cried. A long, painful sob rattled through the pipes. The metal creaked. The floor shook. A panel in the corner burst open and something clawed its way out. A hand, child-sized but twisted, reached for the lever. I grabbed a wrench and smashed it. The hand vanished. The machine shrieked once more, then fell silent again. That's when I saw it. On the far end of the room, a new door had appeared in the concrete. Steel, bolted, with a tiny sign. Clown catalog, restricted. Staff only. I should have walked away, but the itch in my brain had returned. What the hell was a clown catalog? I approached. The lock clicked open on its own. Inside were rows of shelves, each holding a clown mannequin in stasis. Hundreds, labeled with tags like Unit A9, Chuckler, Unit C, 11, Slicer, Unit B, 3, Watcher, all posed, grinning. Then I saw at point one shelf was emptied. A fresh tag read, Unit X, 0, unknown. Escaped. Below it, scribbled hastily, if seen, do not acknowledge. It becomes real once named. I backed out slowly. I didn't speak. I didn't blink. I just made it back to the control room, slammed the door, and waited for morning. When the sun rose, the machine finally powered down. Mr. Blythe greeted me outside the basement door. Did you feed it the special one? He asked. Yeah, I muttered. It cried. He nodded. That's normal. It remembers things sometimes. What things? He looked at me, and for a split second, I swear his face flickered, like a channel tuning, through static. For a moment, he wasn't human. It's best not to know, Eli. You keep the laughter running. Let us worry about the screams. He handed me another box, $3,000 this time, and a torn clown glove. Don't come tomorrow night, he said. The motel is going dark. Moon's wrong. Catalog needs time to reset. I drove away, engine shaking. I didn't sleep, but I dreamed out of mirror number 7, of Unit X, 0, of laughter that turned into screaming halfway through, and in the reflection, I wasn't wearing the clown suit anymore. I was made of teeth, asterisk. I didn't plan to return, not after what I saw, not after the mirror, not after the clown catalog, but 4 nights after Mr. Blythe told me not to come back, I received a package. No return address. Just my name scrawled in red crayon. Inside was a single VHS tape labeled for Eli. View immediately. Along with it came a note. Unit X, 0 has breached containment. The catalog is screaming. The engine won't run without you. My hands trembled as I slid the tape into my old VCR. Static filled the screen. And then, the motel basement. A camera, security footage from a static angle I'd never seen before. Dated just last night. Time code 2:13 a.m. At first, nothing moved. The giggle engine sat dormant, lights out. Then, Something crawled across the floor on all fours. A humanoid shape, but wrong. Disjointed, bending where no bones should bend. It looked directly at the camera and laughed, not like a clown, not like a man, like 1,000 voices crammed through a broken speaker. That was all it did, stare and laugh. And then it moved into the shadows. Gone. I watched that video 5 times before I packed my bag, because the last frame, just before the tape ended, showed mirror #7. And in it was me, wearing no suit, just flesh, stretched and smiling. I arrived at the Clown Motel just after sunset. Everything was dark. No lights, no neon sign, no welcome. Every window covered from inside. All the clown mannequins outside now faced the cemetery. And above the motel, instead of the usual desert sky, hung a bloated, red moon, wrong in shape and pulsing slightly like it was breathing. I knocked on the office door. No answer, but it creaked open on its own. Inside was Mr. Blythe, lying across the check-in counter. Not dead, but empty. Mouth open, eyes wide. His tie had been stuffed into his throat like a gag, and his skin looked like wax, melting at the edges. His fingernails had scratched something into the wood of the counter. And no more jokes. It knows. The hallway to the basement was sealed, with police tape, torn and shredded like something had burst out. The walls were smeared with smeared red handprints, some small, some massive, but then I heard it, laughter. Faint, coming from below. The engine was still running, and I knew what that meant. Something else was keeping it alive. I took the back route, crawling down the maintenance shaft like I did on my first night. About halfway down, I passed room 12. The door was open again. This time, the mannequins weren't there, just the beds. Empty. The lights swung slowly, creaking, like someone had just left in a hurry. On the far wall, written in charcoal and blood, they put on new faces. I didn't stop to read more. I had to reach the engine, had to shut it down, had to contain whatever was mimicking me. The basement was in chaos. The pipes dripped black liquid. The control gauges spun wildly, far past the red zones. And the engine, the giggle engine, was running all on its OWN.NO canisters. No operator, and worse, it was laughing like me. Every chuckle, every wheeze, every burst of manic giggling, it was my voice. My exact laugh, warped and replayed, looping, over and over again like a broken recording of my soul. I stepped forward, and that's when I saw him. Me, standing beside the engine, but not me. Not really. His skin hung loose, his teeth too wide, his head tilted like he didn't understand how necks worked. His eyes, black buttons, just like the doll from room 9. He smiled. "You left the mirror open," he said in my voice. I reached for the emergency laugh track. "That won't help," he giggled. "Not now? It's past laughter. It's feeding." He lunged. I dove behind the console, grabbing a wrench. The dials above me exploded, showering sparks. The machine howled, no longer a laugh, a scream. Metal groaned as the engine began splitting, revealing something beneath it. Something breathing, not mechanical, flesh, pulsating meat, bone gears, human teeth spinning on conveyor belts. The giggle engine was not a machine. It was a living creature that had been trained to laugh. And I had been keeping it alive. I fought him, my doppelganger, slamming the wrench across his face. It tore open easily, like wet paper, but there was no blood, just stuffing, fabric, like he was sewn together. He hissed, then collapsed. I ran to the locker. Locker 13 was wide open, and inside wasn't the usual canisters, just one dot black, glowing, faintly, labeled, Final Feed, Unit X, 0, another note. Insert only during full red moon. Will cause reset. Will destroy catalog. Will kill engine. Warning, identity lost likely. My hand trembled. Could I do it? Would it erase me? But the engine was splitting open wider, laughing now in dozens of voices. Some I recognized. Point one was my mother's. Another my ex. Another, myself, whispering, "Put it in, before we all become jokes." I shoved the canister into the hatch. The room exploded in color. Not fire, color. Rainbows of flesh and scream. Sound became shape. Laughter bent into space. The walls folded like origami. I collapsed as the engine writhed and roared. The floor buckled. The mirrors shattered. And through the storm of madness, I saw it, the true form of Unit X-0.IT had no body. It was a concept, a punchline without a setup. an idea that had escaped, a living joke with no origin, feeding on attention and fear. A parasite that mimics the person you most fear becoming. Me. I closed my eyes, and I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was the only thing left to do. When I woke up, it was morning. The motel was still, quiet. The basement gone, just solid concrete now. No stairs, no control room. No engine. The clown mannequins? Burnt, melted, gone. Mr. Blythe vanished, as if he'd never existed. But on the counter, one thing remained: my old red clown pin, with a note: "Congratulations. You survived the joke. The next one might not be as funny. Don't come back." I drove home. I burned the clown suit that I tried to forget. But some nights, on the edge of sleep, I hear a faint chuckle in the plumbing, in the mirror, in my own mouth, when I'm not thinking, and my reflection? Sometimes it doesn't laugh at all. It just waits. The clown motel had vanished. I know that sounds impossible, but the morning after I inserted the final canister, Unit X0, I drove back to Tonopah out of pure dread. I wanted to see if it was really gone. Needed to see it. Needed proof that what happened in that basement wasn't just some hallucination baked into my brain by the Nevada sun and months of fear, but there was nothing to no neon sign, no clown statues, no rows of mannequins grinning behind cracked motel windows. Just flat desert and a crooked no trespassing sign flapping on rusted chain link fencing, the kind that looked like it had been up for decades. No police tape, no signs of fire, no demolition crew, no rubble, just sand and silence. Except when I stood still long enough, I could hear faint laughter riding on the wind. Not loud, barely audible, but enough to raise every hair on my arms. That I tried to move on with life. That I got a job in Carson City, loading freight trucks at night. Simple work. No machines that breathed. No clown-themed uniforms. No mirrors that lied to your face. And for a while, things were okay. But then the rules started showing up again. The first time, it was just a sticky note on my apartment bathroom mirror. Rule number 8. Do not use your reflection's toothbrush. It is not for you. I laughed. I really did. Thought maybe it was some leftover trauma tricking me into seeing things. But the toothbrush on the counter that night wasn't mine. It was old, cracked, and when I touched it, it was still wet. I threw it away, but more notes came. They started appearing in my locker at work, on the inside of my car windshield. One was even under my pillow. Rule number 9. If you hear squeaking shoes behind you, run. Don't look back. Rule number 10. Never answer a call from extension 9112. It's coming from the mirrors. That night, I unplugged every reflective surface in my apartment, covered the TV, taped cardboard over the bathroom mirror. It helped, for a while, until the dreams returned. Not dreams, exactly. Not visions either. Visits that I would wake up at 2:13 a.m. every night, standing in front of my closet, staring into it even though the door was closed. Sometimes I'd be holding something in my hand. A broken red nose. A canister. Once, it was the pin Mr. Blythe gave me on night 2. I checked my front door camera feed one morning, hoping to catch some evidence of sleepwalking. At exactly 2:13 a.m., I saw myself step out the front door, but I never came back. Until the next morning, when I woke up in bed. I decided to go to therapy. Dr. Carter, an older guy, ex-military, didn't blink at what I told him. I expected him to laugh. He didn't. When I mentioned the clown motel, he went very still. You saw the engine? He asked quietly. I froze. You know about it? He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "What's the last rule you remember?" I told him rule number 7. Never press the red lever. He shook his head. They never told you rule number 11? There's a rule number 11. He just nodded. There always is. He wouldn't tell me what it was. He just said that if I didn't find it myself, the story would keep repeating. That I'd keep getting drawn back in. That the engine wasn't dead, it was simply hibernating. Feeding off the echoes of attention and memory. Waiting for someone to remember the punchline. Every machine has a failsafe, he said. Every joke has a final laugh. Then he handed me a photo. A grainy black and white of the motel in the 1940s. Back before it was known as the Clown Motel. I leaned in. There was a man standing at the door of room 6 wearing a clown suit. And it was me. I drove back to Tonopah that night. I couldn't help it. Something pulled me, like gravity, like fate. The closer I got, the more my head felt like it was filling with helium. Thoughts floated. Logic unraveled. By the time I reached where the motel used to be, I was no longer sure I was in the same reality, because the motel was back, fully intact, lights on, neon flashing. A sign out front. "We missed you, Eli." I parked without thinking. My body moved on autopilot. My breath fogged in the desert air. Even though it was 78 degrees outside, as I stepped out, the clown statue at the front turned its head. "Welcome home," it whispered. Inside, everything was pristine, fresh paint, bright lights. A bell on the front desk rang itself. The keys were all still hanging behind the desk. Every room number had one exception. Room 13. The tag was missing. Instead, there was a note pinned there with a clown face drawn in crayon. "You have to finish what you started." I walked the hallway in silence. There were no mannequins now. No mirrors, but every painting watched me. Their cartoonish eyes shifted with each step. I made it to the basement without resistance. The stairwell was darker than I remembered. The lights flickered in time with my pulse. The bottom. I didn't find the engine. I found a door, painted bright red, with one phrase carved into the wood. "Final rule" inside. I pushed it open. Behind it was a small room, bare concrete walls, a single folding chair, and a clown mask lying on the floor. The same one worn by the man in the 1940s photo. The moment I stepped inside, the door slammed shut, and I wasn't alone anymore. From the corner, something unfolded itself. It looked like me, but bloated, stretched, a parody of flesh. Its eyes bled ink. Its mouth was a gaping hole with teeth shaped like circus tents. When it spoke, my voice came out, distorted like an old tape. The joke only ends when someone laughs last. The lights went out, pitch black, but I could feel it move, hear it breathe. The sound of gears grinding, somewhere deep in its chest. The engine wasn't dead, it was inside it. It was the machine, and it wanted me to replace it. Then I remembered something Dr. Carter had said. The last rule isn't written. It has to be spoken, out loud, or it consumes you. I tried to think like a mechanic, like an operator. What was the failsafe? And then it hit me. Laughter, not fear, not silence, not rage, just laughter, but not theirs. Mine. I started laughing. First forced, then deeper, louder. The clown thing lunged, howling, but I didn't stop. I laughed at the absurdity of it all. The rules, the red levers, the mirrored selves, the fact that I was being attacked by a demonized version of myself in a clown-themed motel basement. I laughed like I was losing my mind. And that's when the thing began to melt. Its skin sloughed off. The teeth fell like broken keys. Its body crumbled, folding into itself, until all that remained was a puddle of black grease and a cracked nose. The door creaked open. A mirror waited on the other side. I in it. I was smiling, and something behind me whispered, "Rule number 11. Don't forget you were always the joke." I walked out of the motel as the sun rose. N01 stopped me. N0 music played. Just wind and sand and sky. And when I turned around, the motel was gone again. Vanished. Only my footprints remained. It's been 6 weeks, and no more rules have shown up. And more laughter in the pipes. But every time I pass a mirror, I hesitate, because I know it's still in there, waiting, not for another clown, not for another soul, just for someone to stop laughing. So the engine can start again.